And the vote for president in white non-college, this is a group that we knew Donald Trump was going to win. He won it handily, 31 points better than Kamala Harris. This is the heart of the Trump coalition, the people he says his presidency will be aimed towards.
We had been told over the last several months that in order to win the White House again, Democrats would have to hit 60% among Latinos. So they clearly weren't able to do that.
Across the country on Election Day, Harris received almost the same amount of support from black voters as President Biden did in 2020. But NBC News exit polls show that Trump made some inroads, gaining ground among black voters in North Carolina and more than doubling his support from black voters in Wisconsin.
He has become the first Republican in 20 years to win the popular vote. The president-elect soared to this historic victory after shifting voters that Democrats once relied on. This time it was Latino voters who became a key part of Donald Trump's voter base. Exit polls show the Republicans saw a 14% increase among Latino voters compared to the 2020 election. Donald Trump also garnered more support from Latino women, as 38% of them voted for Donald Trump, an increase of 8 points from 2020.
So unless you've been living under a rock, you know that Donald Trump won the election and he is going to be the 47th president of the United States. But there were three very specific reasons why he was able to capitalize on Latinos, on women, on college non-educated men, on black men. He was able to make these inroads because the Harris campaign dropped the ball in their messaging on three very specific issues. Let's go ahead and take a look at the first one.
Women's rights in America are under attack. If the court overturns Roe v. Wade, it will be a direct assault on freedom.
4 weeks ago, I was saying, no, I want to protect the people. I want to protect the women of our country. I want to protect the women. Sir, please don't say that. Why? They said, we think it's very inappropriate for you to say. I said, why? I'm president. I want to protect the women of our country.
During his rally in Green Bay, Wisconsin last night, Donald Trump admitted that his advisors have told him to stop saying that he will protect women. It's probably good advice, given the reality now. It's a line he's been using frequently on the campaign trail. As polls show, he's trailing Vice President Harris by large margins with women.
Well, now that the election is over, we know that advice Mika wanted to give Trump turns out to be wrong. Donald Trump won 52% of support among white women. He had 38% support among Latino women, and he had gains with black voters in both Wisconsin and North Carolina. But here's the deeper reason why leaning so heavily on reproductive rights, in retrospect, turned out to be a bad idea. Automatically, when you're talking about reproductive rights, when you're talking about women's rights and women's ability to control their own body, you're automatically cutting your audience in half. Because we're about 50-50 men and women. So now you're just talking to women, and the mistake that the Harris campaign made is that all women think the same. All women want to have and keep their Roe versus Wade constitutional rights that were turned back to the states by this Supreme Court. Even though we have church attendance in this country has gone down as you've gone from the silent generation to the baby boomers to Generation X. According to Gallup, you still have about 49% of people who consider themselves to be religious. And that could be any religion. Yes, attendance has dropped, but you do still have a plurality, almost a majority of people who still call themselves and refer to themselves as religious. You cannot simply dismiss that. You cannot simply assume that every human being to whom you are conversing that just so happens to be a woman is automatically going to take the side of the Democratic Party. There are some women who don't believe in abortion. There are some women who think that's wrong. There are some people who think, or some women who think that that's a sin. So automatically, when you assume that just because you're talking to women and you're talking about reproductive rights, that automatically they're going to side with you, that was a miscalculation. And then also assuming that the majority of men are going to agree with you. Or thinking that men didn't have an opinion because they're men, they don't get pregnant, so who cares what men think? Well, a majority of people, of men, white men in particular, voted for Donald Trump. It was a miscalculation to lean so heavily on the issue of reproductive rights. And now that we have the results from the election on Tuesday, we know that that is the case. But there's an even bigger reason. That wasn't the number 3 reason on this list. You don't want to miss number 2. This number 2 reason is an even more impactful reason why Kamala Harris lost the election. And this goes across both gender and ethnicity lines.
We will build a future where we have what I call an opportunity economy, where everyone can compete and have a real chance to succeed, not just to get by, but to get ahead. That's why we will create what I call an opportunity economy. Opportunity economy.
An opportunity economy sounds great. She talked about giving a $6,000 tax credit for new children, giving a $25,000 grant or tax credit when you buy a house. But again, she's talking about this opportunity economy. And the reason why that resonates so much with me is because the word opportunity is one of those buzzwords that's used in sales. Any of you out there who use a CRM at your job called Salesforce, they really mainstreamed the word opportunity. And so it's, Kamala Harris went to Yale. She's an attorney. So she's speaking at this higher level, about an opportunity economy. And it sounds nebulous. It sounds undefined. And remember, Donald Trump, he's out there. He won non-college educated whites at a rate of 2-to-1. So while Kamala Harris was on the campaign trail talking about an opportunity economy, this is what he was saying to the people who were attending his rallies.
That's all I ask. In conclusion, with your vote tomorrow, we are going to fire Kamala. We're going to save America. We will cut your taxes, end inflation, slash your prices, raise your wages, and bring thousands and thousands of factories back to America and back to the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania.
So we can compare and contrast Kamala Harris and Donald Trump. We can say, hey, Donald Trump said he was going to do all these great things, but he didn't say how. Kamala Harris didn't give enough specificity. But here's what we know based on the results. People vote for the candidate who makes them feel a certain way. And Donald Trump was able to create or engender that sense of emotion and belonging to a larger group of people. And that's why he won the Electoral College. And that's why he won the popular vote. Hey, let's stop for a second. If you're getting value from this video, before we go to the number 1 reason why Donald Trump won the election and why Kamala Harris wasn't able to galvanize enough support, take a quick second for me, hit that subscribe button, hit the thumbs up button, and drop a comment. Share the video with someone, and that will help our channel hit our goal. This is our goal. Our goal, you're part of this community, and I want to make sure that we continue going on this journey together. Hit that subscribe button, and let's go on to the number 1 reason why Donald Trump won this election. Immigration is number 1 on this list because I cannot think of one issue that has galvanized so many people across this country. The whole issue of illegal migrants coming into this country and bankrupting large cities across this country. If you follow this show, you know I live in a suburb of Chicago, and I've done several videos about Brandon Johnson and his mismanagement, his financial malfeasance in dealing with the migrant crises in Chicago. This is going on all over the country. And Every single time Kamala Harris is asked about the migrant situation and about how she could have handled it better, she and Biden could have handled it better, she gives an answer like this. This is how she answered the question at the one and only debate between Donald Trump and Kamala Harris.
Vice President Harris, you were tasked by President Biden with getting to the root causes of migration from Central America. We know that illegal border crossings reached a record high in the Biden administration. This past June, President Biden imposed tough new asylum restrictions. We know the numbers since then have dropped significantly. But my question to you tonight is, why did the administration wait until 6 months before the election to act? And would you have done anything differently from President Biden on this?
So I'm the only person on this stage who has prosecuted transnational criminal organizations for the trafficking of guns, drugs, and human beings.
Again, just a missed opportunity. All Kamala Harris had to say, she could have said this or something like this. As vice president, it's my responsibility to support the president. The president is the ultimate decision maker. Once I am president, I see some, pardon the pun, opportunities to gain some efficiencies and finally get the border under control. This is what I'm going to do once I am president. And she could have just answered that question, and she could have knocked out 2 birds with 1 stone. She could have created some distance between herself and Joe Biden, so that would have taken away all of the accusations of, hey, you've been vice president for 3.5 years, why haven't you done anything? She could have just said, hey, I'm vice president. Constitutionally, I don't have the authority to do anything. That's the president's job. And then she could have outlined what she was going to do differently once she became president. But here's something even more interesting. There is currently a caravan that is coming to the United States from Venezuela. Take a quick look at this.
Nosotros tenemos un destino y el único destino lo tiene Dios preparado para cada uno de nosotros, pero sí queremos estar allá y luchar y el propósito de cada uno. Y si la presidenta Harris gana la presidencia, nosotros pues estamos tranquilos porque Donald Trump no los quiere allá.
You see the narration at the bottom where they're translating the Spanish into English, and you hear this migrant saying, just flat out, we've got to get into the United States now because if Kamala Harris is president, you know, she'll be on our side, and if Donald Trump becomes president, he will not be on our side. Think about a migrant from Venezuela in South America being so intimately involved with the politics of our country that they know if one person gets elected, they have a better chance of getting into the country compared to another person who, if that person gets elected, in this case we're talking about Donald Trump, that the chances of them getting into the United States are greatly reduced. Ask yourself, do you know the lieutenant governor's name of your state? Do you know the name of the governor in the 3 states to the north, south, east, or west of you? Most of us can't even name all of the 50 governors in the United States. What's the capital of Rhode Island? Okay, and my point in saying all of this is that you have migrants from Venezuela who know what's going on in our political process regarding the presidency and how that's going to possibly impact their ability to come into this country. That speaks volumes about how the perception of the Biden-Harris administration has not handled immigration. But then on the other hand, this is what Donald Trump says that he's going to do as president. This is how he's going to deal with the migrant situation. Take a look at this.
And I'm hereby calling for the death penalty for any migrant that kills an American citizen or a law enforcement officer. To expedite the removals of these savage gangs, and I will invoke the Alien Enemies Act of 1798, think of that, to target and dismantle every migrant criminal network operating on American soil.
You see, 2 completely different approaches. And one approach is very benign, it's very vanilla. When anyone asks Kamala Harris what she's going to do about the migrant or the immigration issue, her answer, her boilerplate answer is, I'm the only person on this stage who has prosecuted transnational criminals. And then she goes into her little list of things that she says. But Donald Trump, just like I said earlier, he engenders this emotion of, yes, he's going to do something for us. He's going to get this situation under control. And that is why he won. He won because every time he gets on stage and talks about the situation or the issue of immigration, he sounds like he is siding with the American people above people who are here illegally. He sounds like he's actually listening to what Americans are telling him that they are angry about. And all three of these issues, reproductive freedom, the economy, and finally immigration, the Democrats are not listening to the American people. When the people complain about, or when they go out and they say something about reproductive freedom, they're telling people, hey, this is how you should feel about this issue. When people say, hey, the economy is bad, I can't afford as much to spend on groceries, or I'm behind on my rent, and I can't do what I used to do. Democrats say, oh, the economy's fine. Incomes are going up and the stock market is doing well, and you shouldn't be worried about that. When these same people bring up immigration and they say, hey, we're tired of our tax dollars being taken to take care of illegal immigrants. What do you hear from the progressive left? The pie is big enough to take care of everyone. And the American people gave a resounding answer to the Democratic Party in this election and said, no more. Even with the specter that the Democrats were raising about a potentially dangerous second Donald Trump presidency, when people weighed the potential danger of Donald Trump being reelected against the danger of their everyday lives that they're living right now, they chose Donald Trump. The Democratic Party needs to do a better job in the future of listening to the American people, and if they don't, this will not be the last election that they will lose.